What's going on, people? We got a quick correction officer video. I'm gonna come on here and talk about how to write a good report. One of the key elements of working in corrections is your report writing ability, being able to articulate what occurred when things happen, working inside of a prison or a county jail, whatever facility that you're working at. If you just finding my channel and you're new to my channel, I've been working as a correctional officer for 14 years now. I've worked at 3 different facilities. I started at a county jail in West Virginia. Then I got on with the Bureau of Prisons. I worked at a federal prison in West Virginia. And I'm currently at the federal prison right here in Butner, North Carolina, man. So let's get right to the video though, man. Report writing is one of those things, it's essential to articulate what happened. You have to describe what happened. So when someone is reading your report, they should be able to read your report and it's like they were there. They seen it with their own eyes. So, if you write a bad report, what's going to happen is a lot of times, you write a report, you catch an inmate doing something they're not supposed to be doing. Boom. Okay, you caught them red-handed. You write your report, you give it to the sergeant, the corporal, the lieutenant, the captain, whoever you turn your report into. If it's written badly, a lot of times what's going to happen is they're going to kick it back to you and have you rewrite the report. And a lot of times what happens too, if you write a bad report and you don't include all the details, what you'll find out is the inmate, they may actually get off of that charge. If you didn't articulate it well enough, or, it wasn't written fairly good enough for them to be able to charge the inmate with whatever they did and for the charge to stick. That's the importance of writing a good report, So going over the report, the basics of a good report is the who, the what, the when, the where, and what your actions were. What did you do? So you have to include who all was involved in this incident. So you say you working on the unit, you see 2 inmates involved in the fight, boom, you break it up. Boom, you got to get all the information, after everything is situated, the inmates are broken up. You take them to the SHU, they get evaluated by medical, the supervisor or shift sergeant, whoever, they're going to want your report, so you got to get working on that. So you got to try to remember all the details, who was involved. You're going to need the inmate's name, get their register number so you can include that in your report. Bam. Where did it happen at? Okay, I was working on such and such unit and I witnessed inmate so-and-so walk up to another inmate and strike him with closed fists in the face repeatedly. I ordered them to stop. Boom, it occurred, I don't know, in the top tier, in the back of the unit. It occurred in the laundry room. You got to include where it happened at. Next, you got to include the what. What happened? I saw the inmate take out a knife and he started stabbing the inmate. I heard a loud commotion and I ran out in the unit. And that's what I saw with my own eyes. I got on my walkie-talkie. I called for assistance. That's what happened. Boom. Officers responded. We restrained the inmate. Medical came. They tended to the other inmate. They took him off. Okay, boom. What's the next thing? When did it happen? On such and such date. At this time, I was assigned as the officer in C block around 2:30 p.m. I don't know. We just making up random dates and times. I witnessed this inmate punch him at this time. You got to include all of that in your report. The last thing is what you did. What course of action did you take? I was responsible for securing the inmate in his cell. I seen inmate such and such fighting another inmate. I called for assistance. When officers arrived, I was in charge of handcuffing such and such inmate. I helped escort him up to medical, or, I was in charge of securing the rest of the unit. Boom. You always got to include those elements in your report, man. Otherwise, it's going to get kicked back. Trust me, I've been there, done that, man. You got to include every detail. And the person that's reading your report, they should be able to read it. And it's almost like they're there. They're watching it with their own eyes. That's how good you want your reports to be. So before you even turn your reports in too, man, it may be a good idea to have someone else proofread your report. I don't mean to try to read your report and try to change it or try to make it to where something that actually didn't happen occurred, or they're trying to omit details out of the situation. That's how you get yourself in trouble right there. Always stick to the facts. Always stick to what happened and be truthful, because this is the thing when it comes to a report. When you write a report, that is something that could be used in court against you. So you witness a homicide on your unit, an inmate stab another inmate to death, and you write your report up, or I say we'll use something better. Okay, let's say there's a case where there's excessive force. Officers, they beat down an inmate real bad. You got to write a report on that. Let's say the inmate died, man. If you don't write everything that happened, you try to leave out the part where y'all was stumping his head, punching him in the head, man, and it comes to light, you're going to go down. You're going to go to jail. You're going to lose your job, man. You're going to do prison time. Y'all just seen what happened up in New York with the officers and Robert Brooks. All that was on camera, so they can't even lie and try to omit facts. They was on body camera. You know what I'm saying? So always stick to the facts. Always stay truthful when it comes to your report, because it's a legal document, man. Never, ever try to corroborate with your co-workers if somebody did something wrong or negligent in the job, excessive force. Y'all deny the inmate medical treatment. He ended up having a medical emergency and ended up passing away. You got to include all that, man. You know, especially if you were in the right and you did everything you could to help that inmate, and you got this coworker, they were negligent or they punched the inmate in the head and he ended up in a coma, man. They want you to come. They coming up to you, hey, don't put that in your report, man. Just keep that in the know. We not doing none of that, man. Because for one, I value my job. I'm trying to go home at the end of the day. I don't need to be doing prison time or losing my job. I'm cool. I got a family to feed. I got a job to do, man. When you go outside the scope of your job and you start doing extra stuff, you invite unnecessary problems, man. Stick to your job. I'm not saying not to defend yourself. We dealing with dangerous people, and you may get into a hostile situation. Stuff may turn physical. You may have a mental health inmate trying to assault you, somebody trying to stab you. You just never know. But you got to do what you got to do. But once they're down in handcuffs and restraints, it's over with. That's not the time to be trying to get extra licks in, punching on, man, tighten the handcuffs as tight as you can. Nah, none of that's going to fly in this day and age. That's old school cowboy stuff, man. They probably did 20, 30 years ago. Does it still occur? Yes, you got a few bad apples in corrections. I'm not even going to lie to you. You got dirty staff that bring in dope, contraband, cell phones, stuff like that. You got staff members that put hands on inmates, man, when they shouldn't be putting their hands on inmates. Hey, man, when you go down and you lose your job and you go to prison, you ain't got nobody but to blame but yourself, man. The person staring back at you in the mirror, man. Like I say, I value my job. I try to stick to the policy and procedure. I give the inmates what they got coming. And if nothing's going on in the unit, man, I just keep it simple. I do my rounds. I go sit back down. It's an easy job. Like I said, I've been working in corrections 14 years. One of the easiest jobs I had, a lot of it, what makes the job difficult is when people, they got a lot of idle time on their hands. They get bored, stuff like that. Or you got some hot heads. People that get the job to try to abuse their authority, things of that nature, man. That stuff don't last in the long run, man. You're not going to last if you come into corrections and you got that type of mentality, man. This is the last thing I'm going to leave y'all with when it comes to your reports, man. Always keep and save copies of your report for your records. And the reason I say this is because something bad goes down, like I said, excessive force. Somebody was negligent. An inmate ended up dying. Somebody could try to falsify your report. They could try to change your report up and try to omit details or change. You know what I'm saying? People just think like that, man, when they know they did wrong. They know they did something they weren't supposed to do, and they're trying to cover their tracks. So always keep copies of your report, sign it and date it, just for your personal record. You never know when you may be called to court. I haven't ever been called to court, knock on wood, but you just never know, man, what can go down, man. It's always trouble around the corner when you're working in corrections, man. And things can go from 0 to 100 like that, man. I've seen it so many times in my career. It's like everything's chill. It's a routine day, and then boom, all of a sudden, officers need assistance on such and such unit. We got an inmate committing suicide or inmate stabbing, weapons involved. It just goes from 0 to 100 quick. So you always got to be on your toes, and you always got to stay vigilant and stay alert working behind that wall. Y'all like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. I do coaching calls. If you ever want to get me on the call, pick my brain, ask me specific questions, more one-on-one time. I can do 30 minutes or I do 60-minute coaching calls or FaceTime calls. Email me on my business email. We can set that up. I also got merchandise for sale. Tap in with me on my website. All kind of hoodies and t-shirts, all colors, all sizes available. Y'all got any input, thoughts, comments on this video? Drop a comment and I'll be sure to get back with you as soon as I can. Y'all know how we coming. Let's get motivated. Boop.